Hello, and welcome to Little Live Story, the podcast where we take an anime and turn it into a movie.
And a movie turned into an anime.
I'm Eric.
And I'm Jared.
And before we begin, as usual, the Twitter plug. Remember to follow Little Live Story on Twitter at JaredN, the letter N, Eric1. Just follow that and you'll get to everything else.
All right, so are you ready?
Wrong word to use.
Okay. Your challenge is interviews with Monstergirls.
Oh, joy.
Yeah.
All right. Much like last week, I have to point out that so far, this is the worst thing I've had to sit through.
I know you don't like anime, but you can't necessarily say that every single time we watch a new anime.
I don't want to say it every time.
Fair enough.
As you put it, I had very nuanced reasons for hating this. It was at least cute. So anyone out there who wants to come at me, it was cute.
Okay.
Ask me privately why it's the worst thing of all time. But okay, yeah. I know what I'm doing.
Before you do, though, let me remind you and other people that wouldn't necessarily know what the plot is.
Who could forget?
All right. The plot is generally that in the modern year, monster people, specifically monster girls, have been accepted into modern society. There's government systems are in play to allow them to be able to fully integrate into society, and the show takes place in school, focusing on 3 monster girls and their biology teacher.
An anime in school? You're fucking kidding me.
I know, it's crazy, isn't it? The plot basically revolves around them trying to fit into school, learn with their special attributes as they go throughout their school life.
I abstain my criticisms. That's accurate enough.
Yeah.
All right, first change as, again, last time, I'm changing the title. This time it's a little bit more overt of a change.
Okay.
The anime is called Interviews with Monster Girls.
Okay.
The movie is called Interviews with Monsters. Streamlined, Americanized, Westernized, whatever you want to call it.
I'm cool with that.
Yeah. Change number 2, also something I haven't done yet. This is animated.
So you're turning an anime into an animated movie?
Yes.
Okay.
I want to say 2D animation, but I'll be realistic. This is modern. It's 3D CGI, but it's very stylish. Well, stylish where it needs to be. You'll see.
Okay.
Anyway, we begin very, very tight on a clock. The second hand, it's ticking, ticking, ticking on. We cut to a wider angle, and we're in what we can quickly infer is a therapist's office. We see a child, who will be our lead for the day, sitting alone. He's just a little boy, maybe prepubescent, like 10 years old or so. He's sitting in a little chair that is dwarfed by a giant therapist's desk. We're animated so we can really exaggerate how big this desk is. Like, it's this big mahogany giant at his front. And he's alone in this office, and we can hear just barely through the door his assumedly parents arguing with the therapist. We can't really hear most of what they're saying, but they're having some kind of debate or a heated discussion about something that happened. We keep it vague because this whole film is in response to an event we will never get the full answer about.
All right.
This whole movie is a response to something.
So it's like built around this idea of a certain event triggering something that,
Yes.
but we don't know what the event is.
Yes, something happened to or about or near this boy that then resulted in what we're about to see. But
Okay.
we're never going to fully dive into what it is.
Okay.
After this bit, we cut to show the boy at home. He's not home alone, but he is alone in his room. Maybe he's grounded. Maybe he's just, a loner, that kind of thing. He's sitting on the foot of his bed or by the window or something, and we just use some environmental storytelling techniques to really show what this boy likes. Not necessarily who he is, but what he likes to surround himself with. Monster stuff.
All right. That's fair. Is it like Western monsters, like, a poster of Dracula and like
Very much so.
Okay.
Though that's not exclusive. I'm playing off of the 80s monster kid trope, which was a thing that a lot of 80s media did, and a lot of 80s kids actually were, where, yeah, you would see kids with Dracula posters or the Drac Pack lunchbox or that kind of shit.
Okay.
A lot of kids back then were obsessed with horror stuff, and that's kind of the niche this kid fits.
Okay.
So he has a Frankenstein novelty clock and some kind of, like you said, Dracula poster. He has a big wall of VHS tapes and Fangoria or Famous Monsters of Filmland magazine, that kind of shit.
Okay.
He loves monsters. It's all over the place. And on that note, just because we're going to say this movie roughly takes place in the 80s, not nailing it down to a year, but 80s sounds nice.
So like an 80s niche.
Yeah,
Like
plus-
80s like style.
Yeah, plus 80s nostalgia is really big right now.
Okay.
So Then we cut and we're right outside that same therapist's office again, assumedly the next day or sometime later. And the parents are basically prefacing a therapy session. They're telling him, oh, we'll be right outside. When the half hour's over, we'll be able to take you right home. Don't worry about it. We'll be outside if you're uncomfortable, but you have to go in and talk to him by yourself. And he hasn't even said a word yet in the movie, so he just nods and walks in. Therapy goes terribly. He does not say a single word the entire session. The doctor asks him questions. He just kind of kicks his feet, looks at the ground, looks at the clock. He doesn't seem to want to talk or be able to talk. We're beginning already at this point to get the idea that this kid is a little bit abnormal. I don't think we ever want to officially state it outright, but he's probably some varietal of autistic.
I was actually about to ask that.
Yeah, definitely. He doesn't like eye contact. He's not very talkative. He's kind of a loner. So there's definitely going to play with that. He's some kind of mentally ill, some kind of, I want to say autistic.
Okay.
Then we cut and it's again sometime later, maybe the next night, maybe that night, whatever. He wakes up from a nightmare in his bed, not screaming, but sweating, hyperventilating. He had a bad dreams of some kind. And he looks at the foot of his bed and sees a novelty nightlight. He looks at it for comfort. It's a big, dramatic full moon with bats flying around in front of it. Like it's this kind of this cute little mosaic of vampire culture kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Then we cut and we're at the tail end of a family dinner sort of scene. He asks if he can be excused. They say yes, goodbye. He leaves. And then the parents, mostly the dad, start kind of arguing about him. Maybe the dad is a little bit upset that the therapy isn't going anywhere. Maybe he's just frustrated that his son is not what he wants him to be. So he's sort of gets shitty about his son's mental illness, and the mom they have a bit of a back and forth. Naturally, the child, our lead, is listening on the other side of a wall. Mm-hmm. He doesn't have much of an expression about it, but he's clearly listening. And the last thing the mother says in the scene is, our son's not a monster, Keith, or whatever the fuck her husband's name is. Mm-hmm. Then we cut and we're in therapy session number 2. Same as before, our lead is sitting there kicking his feet, not really looking. The doctor's asking him questions, letting 20 seconds of silence follow. And then Vampire Boy shows up.
Okay, wait. First of all, not Vampire Girl, Vampire Boy. He just shows up in therapy?
Yes.
Like, come on in.
Let me explain.
Go ahead.
So this vampire boy, who looks a lot like our lead, just with fangs and a cape and almost a traditional Bela Lugosi getup, walks in and answers a question for our lead. In case I'm being too subtle, this is imaginary. It's a mental projection.
It's a representation of the child.
Exactly. And so now the animation, which was really, really reserved until this point, goes a little bit wild. It starts to follow the vampire boy around as he's kind of bouncing around the therapist's office. He'll walk up the walls like Christopher Lee Dracula, or he'll pop his head out of a desk, or he'll turn into a cloud of bats when he says something, just to basically do a big juxtaposition play with, the super, super, super realistic animation as is so far and super grounded designs now just kind of going off the rails because we're halfway into the kid's imagination. Mm-hmm. And essentially the vampire boy over the course of this scene starts to answer for the kid whatever the therapist asks him.
So it's sort of acting as if in the real world...
In the real world, our lead is answering, but he's using this as a means to get himself there.
Okay.
And over the course of the scene, we learn that he sees himself sort of as a vampire in a way. Not literally. He's not like those kids from South Park or something stupid.
Yeah.
It's just he sees himself as somewhat nocturnal because sometimes he can't sleep. He doesn't like to look himself in the mirror, so sometimes he feels like he has no reflection. He doesn't like garlic, and his mom loves to put fucking garlic in everything. So we draw a bunch of parallels between him and this vampire kid. Vampire kid helps him get through this and express it. But we never see the kid actually talk to the therapist. It's always vampire boy answering questions.
Mm-hmm. What is the main character's reaction to the vampire being in the room? Is he like following him? Is he like watching him as he bounces across? Or
yes.
Is he always staring forward at the therapist?
He watches him.
Okay.
He was visually just as surprised as we as the audience were at first.
Okay.
And then by the end, he's charmed by it. He likes the vampire boy.
Okay.
By the end of this, we cut. The doctor is escorting the child out. He leaves and then says to the parents, like, that was great. This is working very good. We had some nice progress today. We're working towards some kind of breakthrough. He was very communicative. We're very happy. Parents take him out and say, like, thank you so much for being cooperative. We love you, buddy. We're going to take you out for, ice cream, something. So nice, happy, positive reinforcement ending to this little scene. Mm-hmm. Then we cut and we see our lead again the next day at a movie theater. He's seeing some work-safe, legally allowed amalgam of 80s alien movies. It's not The Body or Invasion of the Body Snatchers or The Thing or something, but it's Night of the Invasion of the Thing sort of thing, just so we can get away with it. Everyone in the audience who likes monster movies knows what we're parodying, but yeah, so it's an 80s alien-style movie.
Okay.
Then we cut and we show him at school the next day or sometime later. Teacher says, everyone pair off so we can do presentation sort of thing. And there's an odd amount of kids in the class, so he's left alone. And the teacher, knowing that he is that kind of kid who doesn't really like to interact with the other kids and the other kids don't seem to like him, gives him the option to just, kid, you can just write a paper instead if you want to. And he, obliges entirely.
Okay.
Then we cut and we're in therapy session number 3. This time, Alien Boy shows up.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So both Vampire Boy and Alien Boy, I assume, look.
They're stylized versions of him.
Okay.
Yes. Alien Boy, let's say, his face kind of does the thing, sort of transitions between different faces, but he just mostly looks like the boy, just with big gray eyes or something. And Vampire Boy, again, looked like a stylized Dracula him.
Yeah.
This scene plays out very similar. Alien Boy's bouncing around, the animation goes a little bit wild, and the Alien Boy does all the talking for our lead. And through this, he explains stuff that was supported mostly by the scene that preceded it, that he doesn't fit in with people. People seem to be afraid of him. They don't understand him. He doesn't really seem to fit in anywhere. And also that he feels like he can be anyone else if he wanted to, but he doesn't know how to be himself, which is analogous of a body snatching alien knowing how to be the person it is, but it doesn't have an identity of itself. Mm-hmm. So therapy session 3 ends, then walks out into the arms of the parents, and then the doctor says, again, we're on our way to a breakthrough, very good, but here's a list of ways that you can maybe make your home, or maybe make his home life a little more safe, a little more structured. And the dad, who is the one who's really kind of not okay with his child, takes it and just like, thank you, doc, appreciate it, shakes his hand, and then they leave. We get a brief scene of our lead looking over at his dad, who's at the kitchen table, reading over that piece of paper, really scrutinizing it, underlining stuff, highlighting stuff. And then we cut, and the dad is taking down the kid's monster memorabilia in his room. He misinterpreted something on the paper, something that said, I don't know, remove violent or macabre imagery from his home that can lead to bad thoughts kind of thing. Just, he misinterpreted something vaguely worded on the paper as to just, what is all this monster shit? Starts taking out his posters, boxing up his VHS tapes, doing that sort of thing. Kid naturally kind of freaks out because not only would any kid freak out about their parents just taking down all their shit, he's obviously found some sort of comfort in all this monster stuff.
This is a solace.
Exactly. This is kind of his, for lack of a better expression, safe space. So he kind of freaks out. He doesn't yell at his dad. He just kind of has some 0.5 version of a panic attack and then bolts out and then hides in the, let's call it, the basement. The dad naturally feels kind of shitty about this, stops what he's doing, kind of does a big exhale, dramatically looks off camera, and then slowly follows his son. Then we see our lead just hidden away behind old boxes in the basement. And then one by one, out of the shadows, out of the boxes, out of the corners of the basement, we see Monster Boy after Monster Boy after Monster Boy.
So like a whole bunch of different ones?
Yep. We see like Kaiju Boy, who's got like Godzilla spikes going down his back. We see a Werewolf Boy. We see Exorcist-style Demon Boy, whose head is green and spins around kind of thing. Bunch of different ones. And they all provide different explanations as to why the father may have done what he did. Maybe Jekyll and Hyde Boy alludes to the fact that the father has kind of a bad temper and says something like, sometimes people just act like this, everyone has a bad temper. And then Werewolf Boy might bring up the fact that maybe it's the full moon. And Kaiju Boy says something akin to, I don't know, people just like to smash stuff. So they're all pulling him in different directions and giving tons of different explanations. Some of them good, some of them bad, some of them low-key problematic, some of them really supportive. But this whole thing just serves to, besides show that this kid has a really active imagination, which we've already really hit on, that his emotional state is very confused and he's very upset by what happened. But anyway, the door to the basement opens up, light banishes the other monster boys, or they hide in boxes, whatever, and the dad walks in, apologizes, hugs his son, says something like, I'm so sorry, I don't understand this stuff, and I don't understand what's going on with you, but I guess you don't either. They hug, it's cathartic, and the father asks if the boy would show him his favorite monster. Mm-hmm. And it's very sweet. We cut, and then it's 2 hours later, the credits are rolling on a monster movie, the dad's asleep on the couch, the kid's almost asleep, just kind of curled up on his lap, and it's very sweet. Then we cut, and we're back at the therapist's office. The boy is, as usual, being asked questions by the therapist, and as usual, especially at the beginning, he's not saying anything. He's wordless. Partway through this, just about at the point when the therapist seems like he's about to not give up, but pay less attention, maybe pull out a notebook and start writing, non-communicative, useless kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Not that the child is useless. I just want to hit that on the head. That sounded really mean.
I understand.
The therapist is not mean. The boy looks over at, let's say it's Vampire Boy, because he was the first one we know, and he's the closest visually to the boy. And Vampire Boy says to the kid that he should speak up. The boy kind of pauses, and then another monster boy shows up, another monster boy shows up. All the monster boys show up, and they essentially say that he should be the one to do the talking, because he's never going to feel any better unless he's the one who speaks up. Mm-hmm. And he's obviously hesitant, obviously really, really nervous about it, but he opens his mouth to say, doctor. The doctor looks up, and then he starts to answer whatever the last question was. It doesn't essentially matter right now.
Yeah.
And then just as the boy is starting to open up himself, the other monster boys look on proudly, and we cut and they're gone. Slow dolly out the window, out the building, until we have a really wide shot of a whole valley, the whole town or something. Cut to credits.
Oh.
For the record, very cute animated movie style credits. Mm-hmm. Like it's the actual credits scrolling past a bunch of stylish posters of monster movies with all the respective monster boys on the posters.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's very cute.
Exactly. Very cute. Very kind of paranorman-y or whatever.
That was exceptionally different from Interviews with Monster Girls, but I like that you kept the two key aspects of Interview with Monster Girls themes.
Which are?
Number one, most importantly, Interviews with Monster Girls is first and foremost basically an allegory for disabilities.
Yes.
And I love that you kept that with our main character. Mm-hmm. Like, it's about the challenging aspects of disabilities, even though the Monster Girls were like
it was a lot more vague with them.
Yeah, it was a little more introspective and whatnot. Mm-hmm. But I love that you kept that.
Yeah.
The second thing is something I didn't actually mention to you when I was doing the recap of Interviews with Monster Girls is that the other aspect of it is inspiring.
Huh?
There's a part later in Interviews with Monster Girls where the main character takes the Doulahan,
the
headless horseman,
chick, yep.
to a college to meet with his college friend who is a physicist, and he inspires her to basically become a physicist because there's so few Doulahans in the world they can't really do experiments on them, and the actual flame is more like a wormhole than anything else. And she's like, if it's illegal to do experiments on Doulahans, if I just do it myself, no one will have a problem. And it actually inspires her to further her studies. She's also the smartest of all the monster girls
and the cutest.
Yeah.
I'll be honest.
So that in itself is a secondary thing, and I like how you caught that. You caught that as well in your thing.
Yeah, I really tried to make something meaningful out of this, especially because I disliked it so much. But yeah, I mean, I guess if I retained the virtues of it, that's even better.
Yeah.
And final roll call for the cast and crew of at least what I thought of. Directed by either Rich Moore, who he directed, he did a bunch of the best of The Simpsons and Futurama and shows like that, but he directed both Wreck-It Ralphs and Zootopia, so he's got a really good pedigree for animated movies with deeper themes. Or Alex Hirsch, who is a fucking genius, and he showran and created Gravity Falls, which is one of the best animated series to come out in the past decade. Okay. So either one of them would be perfect. And the father, I want to be played by Patrick Wilson, who you would know him as he was Orm from Aquaman and Night Owl from Watchmen.
Oh, cool.
And he's also Ed Warren from the Conjuring movies and such like that. The mom, I don't know. The doctor, however, I think I was using male pronouns the whole time, but the doctor is Sigourney Weaver.
Oh, hell yeah. Because that is perfect.
Exactly, because she can really do that kind of staunch doctor-like role, but she's also, for the nerds in the audience, a perfect monster pull because of Ghostbusters and Aliens and all that stuff.
No, that's a perfect pull.
Yeah, and the kid, I also don't know because I don't just want to pull from fucking Stranger Things or It like everyone else who fan cast children, and I also don't know a lot of child actors, so I'll just leave that one up to chance.
Okay.
But that's all I got.
All right, there we go.
Yeah. You ready?
As ready as I can be.
Sweet. All right, so today, I need you to make an anime out of I, Tanya. Did you think I was going to say I, Robot?
I mean, it'd be a little easier.
Nope, I, Tanya.
All right, bring me through. What is I, Tanya?
For those that don't know, I, Tanya is a modern dramedy biopic sort of Scorsese-esque film about the Tanya Harding, Nancy Kerrigan story. It's told kind of through fake testimonials and interviews and is a somewhat satirical dramatization of the story of Tanya Harding's rise from a nobody to the second best figure skater in the world, and how Nancy Kerrigan got her kneecap broken in by some rubes.
All right. So I just want to state before we begin, when you showed me this movie, I was absolutely outside my wheelhouse.
Yes, you were.
Not only is this not a type of movie or anime I would watch in my normal time, I know nothing about figure skating.
Or true events.
Yeah. So despite my favorite movie being arguably a biopic, I basically needed to do a little research. So I ended up watching Yuri on Ice to at least give me some idea of not only what figure skating is, but also what figure skating anime could look like.
Jared really just couldn't fathom what figure skating was.
I mean, I'd never watched it on TV before.
I had not either.
So I needed a little background, and now I got it.
All right, then as you were, take us there.
We open with a young girl, like a high toddler age, like somewhere between 2 and 4, trying to ice skate and continuing to fall. Like she gets up, she falls over, she gets up, she falls over, but she keeps trying. And after a few attempts of that, she eventually like just sits down and she starts crying. Then we see a hand extend down to her and a motherly voice, it is her mother, saying, "Come on, I'll help you. I'll show you how to do it."
Oh, yeah, because the mom from the movie was so motherly.
Well, there's a reason for this.
I'm just kidding. Go on.
She's like, "Come on, here, I'll show you." She takes her hand and they ice skate together. And it's they have a nice little opening theme song of them ice skating throughout the rink. The mother's like helping her, like she's picking her up and making her feel like she's flying and then putting her back down.
Super cute.
Yes, very, very cute.
As I always have to ask, I know I'm jumping the gun, but I assume even though this was a true story I gave you, that this is not Tanya Harding and this is Japan.
Well, yeah, you're right. This is not Tanya Harding. That is not her name.
Okay, had to ask.
So then we age her up a little, and now she is at the ice rink skating still, but now without her mother's like on the side watching her, cheering her on, but she's still a really bad skater. Like she's abysmal. Like other kids are able to very easily like skate around without holding. She constantly has to hold the handrails and she's having a hard time getting anything done, but you can tell by the smile on her face she's having a blast.
Okay.
She's loving every minute of it despite the fact that she's failing. And her mother is cheering her on. Like her mother has no expectation of anything of her, but she's having a good time and it's all good. And we go through several minutes of her skating around and then we see her skating with her friends and basically other scenarios of her skating. Not skating well, but other scenarios in which she's skating because she's doing it a lot. Then as she's getting off the rink in one of the scenarios, she starts taking off her skates and then a lady walks up to her and says, "Are you such and such a Japanese name? Are you this person?" And she's like, "Yes." And is like, "I've been watching you. Frankly, you suck." And she's like, "Well, thanks."
Right? I was about to say the same thing.
And she's like, "But I see a lot of potential in you. You are in here basically every single day skating your heart out and you love skating, don't you?" And she's like, "Yes, I do."
I'm glad you offered that explanation because I was going to say there's so many other apparently good skaters in there and she goes for the fucking one that cannot stand up. But okay, yeah, dedication, cute. All right, go on, sorry.
She's like, "If you're willing to accept hard effort and willing to put your all into it, I can make you a figure skater." And she's like, "What?" "I believe that I can make your dreams come true." She's like, "Nice to meet you. My name is," insert the Japanese name here. Her eyes light up. She realizes that this is through a short scene of newspapers and other things like that. She realizes that this is actually a famous ice skating coach. She's like, "You're
blank. Wow."
Yeah, like basically, she's like, "What are you even doing here?" And she's like, she doesn't even bother answering what she was doing here. She was just like, "Do you accept?" And she's like, yes, I accept." And that's the end of the first episode.
Okay.
We pick back up now with her skating again, but with this coach. Like the coach is very, very strict, like yelling at her, basically being like, "No, if you're going, don't turn your feet," like skating
coach stuff.
Yeah, skating terminology, things that I don't understand. You can tell she's getting better, but she's still not great. And then as we progress, we begin a competition. And
how old is not Tanya at this point?
At this point, she's like let's call it 15 or so.
Okay. So she's teenager, young woman, not still a child.
Yeah. She's no longer like a baby. She's just
I knew we'd aged her up, but I just didn't know how much.
Yeah. So they're at this tournament, and we see the first person go up, and we see part of that, and like their performance is really good, and it gets the main character kind of pumped, and everyone's super excited. And there's another person in front of her. As she's preparing, she sees this beautiful blonde girl walk past her, striding with like sort of a pompous arrogance as she walks onto the ice ring, and they call out, "Tanya!" End the episode.
Okay, see, I thought I had an idea what you were doing for a second, and then that was just dashed away.
Now we're at episode like 3 or 4.
Boy. Is this a character named Tanya, or is this Tanya Harding stepping into our anime?
Enter our main villain, Tanya Harding.
Is this going to end with Tanya Harding performing an act of violence against a Japanese woman?
Well, anyway.
Go on.
Tanya Harding is now the new main character of this episode and then maybe the next one.
Okay, so we're following her now.
Yes. She goes up and puts on a beautiful performance, does an amazing job, gets a standing ovation, and she walks off sneering as she looks at this pathetic girl as she walks past, which is our main character. And then as she exits, we flash back, and she starts basically telling us her backstory, how she moved here with her parents to Japan from America when she was a kid, and her dad left when she was young, but she is hailed as the Ice Princess, and she takes that very seriously. She is the up-and-coming star, and she's very, very proud of that. Even when she was having a performance, there's a lot of allusions to her ice skating ability basically being like a katana cutting through the air. She's called the Ice Princess, and she's basically like a blade wielded on the ice.
Oh, this is so. There's a lot of layers to how strange this turn is. Okay.
So we go forward, and she's explaining her backstory and whatnot, but she isn't really talking too much about her personal life. She gives us enough for us to know, but there's always this air of pompous arrogance when she's retelling. So she acts as if she's a princess. She tells it as if she's a princess, but she never says she's a princess because she isn't.
Is it that same sort of like non-diegetic, like talking to the camera, or is she just standardly narrating?
She's more like, I did a great job and here's why.
But so she is still talking to us as the audience?
Yes.
Okay.
She's more recounting to herself, which is also recounting to us, the audience.
Okay. So it's more like a diary entry being read sort of thing.
Basically.
Okay.
Oh, and I forgot to mention one of the important things is that she is very stuck on this word genius. She never says it as if she is a genius, but whenever the word is brought up, she says other people call her a genius.
Okay.
So anyway, we go forward, and there's a lot of time in between. We see a lot more practicing of the main character. We're away from Tanya, and she's constantly failing, constantly getting up, a lot of like practicing different skills and whatever. And we're moving through and a lot of like attempts at different competitions, and she eventually enters one competition and does a brilliant job and actually wins. Her first competition, she wins. And by this point, she's like maybe close to 20. So she wins, and she goes and gives her mom a big hug, and then hugs her coach, and it's a really big happy moment. And we see in the stands Tanya just watching. She's not happy.
Narrow on her eyes.
Yeah, basically. We have more practice and training and more intermediate stuff as we progress forward, and then eventually we get to the first quote-unquote big tournament. It's like a nationals one. And of course, Tanya's there. In this, the main character ends up going first, and she puts on a brilliant display with original music, and people start actually equating her performances to like a feather floating.
This is a very hyperbolic audience.
But this is a sports anime, Eric. So in sports animes, they love talking up things that have no, like someone throws a baseball and is like, oh my God, did you see the spin he put on the baseball? That extra third rotation will make it really hard for the batter to actually hit it. That kind of stuff is very, very common. And it's not just in sports animes. In Forest of the Piano, they talk about the beauty of the music coming out of the person, like their soul is reaching. And I've listened to a side-by-side comparison of a song played in Piano of the Forest and a song played by a real pianist. They sound exactly the same. I may not have the ear for it, but I'm pretty sure they're just talking it up.
Okay, so they're just a bunch of flouncy, flowery dinks.
Yeah, basically.
Okay, fair enough. It's the style.
Yes. Anyway, so the main character does a really good job. And as we're going, we are building a couple other side characters that are important, like a couple other rivals, basically.
Okay, so there are other skaters.
Yeah, but like for the sake of this story, there's no reason for me to go through who they are.
Naturally. We've basically always skipped side characters because we're not trying to sit here for 6 hours.
And then Tanya goes up, and we see her full performance because we're not seeing everyone else's full performance. We're seeing parts of them. She goes up and performs a beautiful triple axel.
Bam.
She wows the audience, and it's announced that she is the first woman to ever have performed the triple axel. And she's young. She's like 20 or something.
Checkmate, not Tanya.
Even the main character is cheering and clapping like she's excited. Like she at no point is seeing all these other skaters as rivals as much as just other competitors.
I was going to say, yeah, not Tanya seems like a very good sport.
Yeah, she really is. Like she wants to win, of course, but she's enjoying the atmosphere. She's happy that she's here. She's just having fun putting on a show. Cut 3 years later. We're now gearing up for the prelims for the Olympics. There's a bunch of the reoccurring skaters there, and they're all preparing and warming up. Tanya isn't actually here. She's in a different block. The main character thinks to Tanya and wonders basically like I wonder how well she's going to do in her block and whatever. And she goes up and performs an amazing job. And
you didn't say beautiful this time.
I'm sorry.
I mock you.
She walks off and basically dries her sweat and goes home. We then see Tanya performing her routine, and she is congratulated and people are like excited for her. And then a interviewer comes up to her and basically says, "So you did an amazing job, but we've been hearing about this up and coming girl," enter the main character's name here. What do you think of that? And she just gets a really disgusted look on her face. She does not like the fact that the main character is getting equal or more attention than she has. And this has been slowly building. Like there has been more and more signs that the main character is starting to get more popular, but this is the first time it's been outwardly shown. Anyway, so she puts on her best fake smile and says something nice about the main character and then walks away.
Yo, I love not Tanya. She's a really good sport, and like I've known her a long time. We're really close. All right, bye.
Yeah. We then go a little bit forward, and the main character is now practicing at her home rink. Coach is there, and she's watching her, and she's going about, and then as she's getting off the ice, she goes into a hallway. She's basically going to go to a locker room, and then we hear the sound of a collapsible baton, cracking of bones. We don't even see it. We see
dramatic
the main
black on, then
yeah, we see the main character's face distort, and she collapses to the ground, starts crying and wailing. And
we get a random shot of ice cracking. Yikes.
The next scene is her in the hospital, and she's basically has the leg cast and recovering, and her mother's outside crying, and the coach is trying to console her. Doctors are like looking over charts and whatnot, and she's just sitting there sort of dumbstruck that this happened. She doesn't really know how to process it. This, by now I can actually officially say, is Kerrigan, obviously, if you haven't figured that out yet.
Yes, I figured.
So we can just refer to her as Kerrigan from now on.
Not Tanya.
She's told that it'll take several months for her leg to fully properly heal. By now, she has been actually admitted to the Japanese Olympic team, and it's going to happen in 3 months.
Whoops.
So the doctor's like, I don't know if your leg's going to fully heal in that time. She's like, do whatever you can. I'm going to that. And he just walks away, sighs and whatever. And we have the next while of her recovering, and we see Tanya skating in her home rink. And then we have a flashback to a shady-looking man in an alleyway talking to Tanya and basically saying, like, I can deal with this Kerrigan girl for you. Tanya basically nods, and the guy walks away.
This is a little more overt. I feel like the Tanya Harding estate might sue, but
3 months comes and goes, and the day of the Olympics happens. She's no longer in the hospital, and she's preparing to go out and perform. She's getting her skates on and all that stuff.
I was really hoping you were going to say that she performs the Olympics from her hospital bed. Hospital bed with skates on it or something.
Holy crap. No, but before she goes out, she's told by, I don't know, her coach or a doctor or whatever, that her leg has not fully healed yet.
If you fuck up now, you're fucked up forever.
Basically.
This is Rocky 2.
Yeah.
You have brain damage, and if you get hit, it's going to get bad, or your eye's bad. Or yeah, sports movie drama.
Yeah.
Essentially saying, oh, no.
Don't go now.
Yeah,
basically.
Big problem, but the indomitable spirit of man is saying you have to go.
Yes. So she goes out and again performs beautifully, like a feather, again is what's described to. However, nearing the end of her performance, you hear a snap, Her face twinges, and then she continues.
No, Nancy, your leg.
She then skates off and kind of we see half movement of her semi-limping away. Tanya now performs, and her blade has dulled. It must be stated that every time the illusion of a blade has been said, it's also been shown. Like when her body is outstretched, it's shown as if it's a katana blade along the side of her body. And it's always shining brilliantly like it's a brand new blade. But now you can see the blade is like kind of rusted and dulled.
Symbolism.
Yes. So we then go through several other people, and the award ceremony happens, and Kerrigan wins a silver for her amazing performance, and Tanya gets 8th place.
Boof. 8th down.
Yeah.
See, that's more like the Tanya I know. No offense.
I forgot to state that before the awards are actually being handed out, Tanya walks up to Kerrigan and kowtows before her, apologizing her heart out. She's like, I had no idea it would be that bad. I thought they would just give you death threats or something. I'm very, very sorry. And the main character, with her big ol' heart, forgives her.
Aw, too bad she doesn't hand out government pardons.
Yeah, so then we cut forward to the court case with Tanya, and the sentence ruling is the same exact in the movie. That
never allowed to skate again, go fuck yourself, pay a lot of money in community service.
Yes, exactly. Though in the courtroom audience, we actually see Kerrigan sitting there on Tanya's side, basically just also aghast that she's not allowed to skate again. Then we have a little afterward thing.
I believe they call that an epilogue in fiction.
Yeah, well, it's an afterward because it said so. No, it's really like the last episode. We talk about how...
Where are they now?
Basically, Tanya took up kickboxing. It's showing that she's an excellent kickboxing martial artist using her skills as a figure skater. She has really good like spin kicks and whatever, and the blade is back. The blade symbolism is back. Like her legs are described as a blade cutting through the air to knock out her opponents.
Not every fucking thing can be blades, sports announcers.
Well,
how bladed are her legs?
Apparently very.
Yikes.
So she's successful at that. Meanwhile, Kerrigan has taken up coaching. She no longer can figure skate because we now can gather that...
Bad break that didn't heal properly and then was fucked with.
Yeah, so she can still be on the ice, she just can no longer perform.
Yeah, she can't do jumps and such.
Exactly. So she's teaching little kids.
That's cute.
And we see a scene of her teaching and whatnot, and then we see the camera pan over to Tanya in the audience watching.
Her eyes narrow, taking aim at the child.
No, she's watching like happily, like her friend is there. They get off the ice, they say hi to each other like it's been a while, and then they walk off. The end.
That's sweet. Any postscripts, any stylings you need to add? Or
so this is our first one. This has been a 24-episode anime.
Oh shit, we finally went past 12.
Yes.
Congrats, we made it.
This has been a journey. Like the whole getting better until we like face up against Tanya takes a long time. We don't just jump there. So the face off with Tanya isn't till like 16 or 18 or whatever. So it takes a long time to get there. And that enters the last part of the whole anime.
Nice. All right.
So as you can tell, I obviously changed a lot, but I left it enough the same that I could say it's loosely based or inspired by.
Inspired by is a lot closer.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I think you did a decent job of, what would that be, Easternizing? Because you always hear Westernizing. I guess.
Maybe.
It's grammatically correct.
Yeah.
I guess Easternizing, Japanifying, anime-ifying the story of the Tanya Harding, Nancy Kerrigan thing. But I have to question, or at least ask about, what was your thought process regarding making Tanya the darling? Because the whole point is that Tanya is hated for who she is, regardless of her skill. And this is completely backwards.
Yeah, well, Tanya obviously is a villain in her own story. So I felt that making her the main character was not going to fit as well.
Oh, I'm not questioning your not making her the main character. I'm just questioning the choice to make her the darling.
I wanted to give her a redemptive arc. Because in the movie, as well as in the anime, it isn't clear whether she was fully implicit on breaking the legs, and especially in the anime where she's very apologetic for the whole event, like she did not actually want it to go down that way, and she's sincere about it. I wanted her to have
And
some
she was sincere about loving skating.
Yeah, she just was like a little too intense. So,
All right, that makes enough sense.
yeah, I wanted her to have some sort of redemption.
All right, fair. So a fall from grace when you're actually higher is a higher fall.
Yes.
That makes sense. Well, either way, I got you to watch a biopic.
Apparently.
A modern one.
Modern one completely outside my wheelhouse.
Yep. Okay, anything else for today?
Not that I can think of.
All right, I will say next episode's going to be number 5, so almost there.
Yep.
I don't know what we're almost there to, except the number 5, but we're almost there.
We're almost there to number 5.
All right, so I'm Eric.
I'm Jared.
And thank you for listening to our little live story.
Have a wonderful day.